Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you for joining the stream. I'm just getting set up here. All right, so I am going to get started soon. Today I'm going to be covering some questions I was asked as part of a Facebook post I did soliciting questions or soliciting people to ask me anything about my work or any of my hobbies, anything I do. So that's what I'm going to be covering today. I think it should be a pretty short stream. I also want to promote my next stream, which is going to be picking a project from a viewer or just a family or friend and working on that. So that's what I'm going to do. All right. And so that's the banner I'm just finishing up. I don't want to spend too long on it, but let's see what we can accomplish here. create this image for next week's post. Okay. Okay. Trying to give this more of a cartoony look and feel here. Alright, so if you're just joining, please feel free to leave a question in the chat. And I'm going to get to the Ask Me Anything shortly and just wrapping up this design for next week's post. Hey, Random Words. Thanks for joining. Please, yeah, let me know your question. And I'd be happy to answer it. My son's back here, by the way. Hopefully you can hear me, random words. If you can't, I've just typed in chat for you. If you got a question, just please ask. Alright, random word says he forgot his question. Alright, that's alright, buddy. Alright, I think I might have to have a disclaimer, like restrictions apply, not available in Canada for this I'll Build It project. Hey bro, do I know what your profile picture is? I'm going to guess that that is Incredible Hulk, but I really have no idea. Alright, so I'm going to do this Facebook post. Yeah, what do you know? You can just copy and paste directly into Facebook. I don't know if the quality is good though. Let me just do an export here. Hey, what's okay, random words, you say Shrek. Alright, I'm gonna pause the stream for a second to help my son out. I'll be right back in 1 minute. Okay, and we are back. Um, hey, random words. So you asked if I play Genshin Impact. Yes, I do. I do play Genshin Impact. I have not streamed it though. Okay. All right. So that post is off. Now on to the Ask Me Anything. All right. So let's see what we got here. So I'm just looking at my Facebook post. So first off, I have, I believe, my brother with our most recent question. And I believe he's in the chat now live. Tacos or pizza? This is an excellent question to get us started off with. I haven't had, my boss was mentioning tacos today because she said Taco Bell is having a free taco thing. Randomly during a meeting she mentions this. And I was like, oh, I haven't had tacos in a long time. Apparently you need to buy like 12 tacos or something and then you get one free. That's the free taco deal. But anyways, I think I survived one summer, me and my college buddies, on just Taco Bell chalupas alone. And I remember being broke college student and us digging through our change trays back in the day to like make sure we would all have enough to, like, you know, whatever the 99 cent or whatever it was back then, to get some tacos. So I do miss those days, but having 4 boys, I definitely have consumed far greater amounts of pizza recently. So tacos or pizza, I think it depends on my mood. I like the crunchiness of a taco, though, I will say that. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. What is the best way to get started with UX design? And this one comes from Khorram Zaman. So this is probably the most frequent question not only I as a UX designer gets, but probably a lot of UX designers. And I will just say, sorry, I'm keeping an eye on the chat here, so while I'm talking, if I seem distracted. Let's start with what is a UX UI designer. So the UX stands for user experience, and the UI stands for user interface. And those are pretty much exactly what they sound like. Although the terms, there's a lot of terms for what I do these days, and it's, there's human factors, engineering, there's product design, customer experience. All of them are kind of the same thing. So user experience works just as good for anything. Before I get to that, on the user interface, that is a little bit more technical. That's actually using your design skills to design interface. And by interface, I mean what a software or application or website looks like. And that's typically what a user interface designer does. Now, you can be a user experience designer without knowing anything, without being able to design your own interface. Those two can be completely separate. I come from a design background, and so I have the ability to work on UI as well as UX. So what is UX? UX is just making things easier for people using software and applications and websites. All of us have been on websites. If you're watching this, you are watching YouTube, and there's certain amount of affordance where how to use, how to navigate, how to click on things. And we take those principles, those things that people are used to, and we try to improve upon them or utilize them in such a way that someone's experience is not frustrating. And this is actually a very scientific field. So what is frustrating? There's ways to test for this. What are people's grievances with interfaces? What is difficult? It's hard for people to describe when they don't like a website, or they don't like an application, or they don't like a tool that they're using, a digital tool. But there are ways to test and observe and understand what a user's experience is like when they're using a product or application. And then once you understand that, you can make, a lot of times the solutions become pretty obvious. So you can come up with solutions to improve their experience, and then you can then test to see if their experience has been improved. So it's a pretty cyclical process. It's in everything we do. User experience is been around, I think, 20, 30 years formally, but not formally, it's been around forever, since the Stone Ages, so to speak. But anytime we take and improve something based on certain rationales, then we can call that user experience. But formally, it's been around 20, 30 years, and these days you can get a full degree in it. When I was younger, it was either not something available or not something just marketed, which kind of brings me to my background and the question in general. So what's the best way to get started in UX? Well, I'll tell you how I got started, and then I will expand upon that a little bit. So I got started in UX because I actually, first of all, my background was when I started university at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County. I started in computer science. I was a computer science major, and I liked programming. I liked computers. I had done internships and mentorships prior to that in high school, and I love computers, and I loved gaming on them, and I loved the programming and things like that. But it turns out you also, for a computer science full major, you needed to do a lot of math, which I was not so hot at the time. And I also had a love for drawing and art. So I decided at some point that I wanted to do a fine arts major. You couldn't minor. You couldn't minor in fine arts or computer science. I don't remember which one it was. But ultimately, I decided I loved computer graphics and that I wanted to be doing it more on the design side rather than the programming side of computer graphics. And so I ended up getting a fine arts degree. I did take a bunch of computer science courses, which I'm to this day grateful for, because a lot of the stuff I love doing, game development and design, requires like scripting and just understanding of coding, even front end UI. Um, I'm getting feedback that maybe my volume isn't too loud, but I think it should be. So I think my mic is set to full, and my audio. I'll bring my mic closer. Hopefully that'll help, because I am moving away from my desk when I talk. That's the trouble with having a standing desk, I guess. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So I ended up doing a full major in fine arts, and I ended up doing animation. So in another life, I think I would have worked for Pixar or Disney or some animation studio. And I also did interactivity. So certainly I could have went down a interactive design, and I could have went down a more of a game design path. But out of college, I got hooked up with some folks who needed some work done for software. And at that time, it was kind of like, hey, if you know Photoshop, we need some UI, we need some graphics. You know Photoshop, right? And in fact, I had been using Photoshop since early high school, Photoshop 4. I think they're like they stopped numbering them, but I think they're like on 20 or something if you're counting. And we've got some silliness going on in chat. So anybody who knew Photoshop at that time could have got hired in terms of doing UI. And luckily, out of college, I had 4 internships. I had one doing web design for a company called Applied Information Technologies during the .com, was it pre-.com bust? I can't remember. I think it was during when it was hot. And then I had one for Conceptual Geniuses, was mainly multimedia, formerly Black Tide Designs. And I had one, the Office of the Mayor, under Frank Pirelli, the art director for the Mayor of Baltimore. And I had a 4th one for a company called Primatics, doing mobile UI design for a pharmaceutical app, which was pre-iPhone. So that's back when people had like Palm Pilots and stuff. And so I had 4 internships. So coming out of college, and so my first gig I landed. Well, one, I had a layout gig for a local community newspaper, the Muslim Link newspaper. And so I did layout using my graphic skills, and then I got a job doing UI for an IT consulting company. And so, long story long, after so many years of doing UI work, I naturally started running into user experience questions. Because I was doing the UI at a small company, I also got put in charge of doing training. So I would train customers because I built the UI. And building the UI, I had to figure out how it worked. It wasn't enough to get requirements. And just, build the UI. Like, there were requirements was never enough. You had to figure out how things were going to be. And so I naturally just ended up doing UX work. And years later, I realized that, and it's something then I started officially kind of studying and taking training on and learning, reading books, watching videos, and just more formally getting training in that specifically, rather than just UI, user interface work. I will say it helped to have the UI background. Um, but I know lots of UX professionals, and anytime you take training, um, I recommend going to the Norman Nielsen Group website. They have a lot of papers on UI, they have trainings. But anytime you take a training, uh, one thing you'll find is that everyone comes from a different background. It's like asking, there's people who go around and say, how did you meet your spouse, right? And everybody has a different answer. It's kind of like that with the UX professional. You can walk into a conference room full of UX professionals, and you can say, sorry, just trying to keep an eye on chat here in case there's any questions for me. But you can walk into a room full of UX professionals and say, how did you get started in UX? And everybody will have a different answer for you. I think one important takeaway is you don't need a design background. You don't even need a fine arts degree. There's people who come from a psychology degree, which is useful because a lot of UX has to do with psychology and user behavior. There's people who just come from entirely different fields like mathematics or philosophy, fields that don't necessarily are directly correlated to what you would think you need for user experience. That's kind of the beauty of it. The most important thing I think you need to be a user experience professional is empathy. Empathy. And I think that's something I've always had. Even when I had jobs like working at Circuit City, I was a computer sales rep in the small office, home office department. And I loved helping people. I mean, old person came in and was asking me about a computer and like which one to buy. Yes, we were commission sales, but man, I got into helping people, and I've always been like that. And so I think empathizing with people, their needs, is a key aspect of being a user experience professional. I think you can come from any field, but if you have a genuine desire to make people's lives better, and to improve their experiences, because you see something on a site and it bothers you, you understand that you can do it better. Everything else after that, after having the passion and the desire to want to make things better, is all science. And for that, there's books, there's YouTubes, there's trainings, there's lectures. It's all science. There's terminology for the way that users behave. There's strategy and procedure for how to conduct, user testing. So I would say if you're interested into it, I could always, contact me directly, and I can give you some sources to get started. And the other thing I would say is just go ahead and get started. Volunteer. This thing I have up on the screen, I'll design it. It's just to say, it's just volunteer work. And that's another way I got started. Before I got started in college and with all those internships, you know how I learned Photoshop? I was self-taught, one to begin with, but I used to do so much volunteer work for the local mosque. I remember doing pizza flyers. And sometimes they would pay me for some of that stuff, but it was, a trivial amount for the time. But that's how you get experience. So do some self-learning. You can do some formal learning, and then volunteer. Do a user experience case study for a friend or a relative, the local school. Everyone will take free work, and that'll help you build your experience and your portfolio. And then eventually, if you want to get a job in the field, you'll have something to show. And portfolio and all that is something we can talk about too. All right, I'm going to take a breather here to check the chat. Looks like we got 3 folks here. So if you're tuning in, feel free to leave a question in the chat. All right. Random words, be right back. BRB stands for be right back. As far as I'm concerned. Anyways, let's continue on with the questions here. All right, Simon wants to know monitors or projectors. All right, Simon, this is a little bit of an inside joke. This is my buddy Simon Wan. He's a gaming buddy of mine. It's a little bit of an inside joke. The guys, my gaming buddy guys, pick on me once because we had a LAN party in Chicago at our good buddy Jim's house, and I said I had a gaming laptop, I think at the time, and a PlayStation 4. Yeah, it was right when Destiny came out for the PlayStation, and I did not want to carry a gaming laptop, a PlayStation, and a monitor on the plane. And I wasn't sure if anyone had a spare there. But I thought, okay, you know what? I'll throw my projector in my bag. And so I showed up at the LAN party. I had a little corner of the room, and I projected my PlayStation 4 onto my friend Jim's wall. And I had the biggest screen out of anybody. And yes, my desk and everything was hot from the projector, but it was, I think everybody else got a good laugh out of it, and it was a fun time. So that was a really awesome trip, just going and hanging out with a bunch of guys and playing video games for a couple days. So yes, I definitely recommend projectors. I have 2 now, and one in our movie theater, and then one just collecting dust around here somewhere, which I need to put to good use somehow. But yes, if you're traveling, projectors are good. If you can find a wall, you've got a screen. All right. Let's see what other questions we have here. Usman Alizai says, what is the best hosting service out there? And I don't know. I cannot give you good advice on a hosting service because I myself has been using the same one, I think, for 15 years or something. I use Hosting Matters, and it's just one of those cases where I am too lazy to move off of it because I'm not sure what would happen to my domain. I think actually my site is not even up right now, so I don't even have a good use for it. But I think I did peek at, let's check it out right now. It's called Just Host. Yeah. All right, so this is the Just Host website here. Free advertising, Just Host. You want to sponsor this live stream? So, I mean, $4 a month sounds dirt cheap. I think I'm paying like $8 or something. But all of this, plenty of disk space. So it's not unlimited, but probably more than what you need. It really depends on what you need, and if you need all these tools. A lot of times, like, there's a lot of extra stuff thrown in there. But if you don't need it, there's just extra stuff you're not going to use. So I don't know. If anyone knows of a good hosting service, either post on Facebook or in the chat of this video, and maybe we can help Usman out by finding something. I'd love to know what you want to use it for. Is it a personal site? Is it a business site? And then, yeah, let's talk. I'm always curious to hear about people's projects they're working on. All right. So I didn't get too many questions. I think that was it. So I will turn it over to the chat. Cryptocurrency. Chat wants to know, my brother, Rehan Ahmed, wants to know, Do you think cryptocurrency is the future, or will it crash and burn? I have no idea. Do not take financial advice from me, but you are the second person to ask me about cryptocurrency this week. People seem to think, hey, you know about technology, right? So should I buy bitcoins? Unfortunately, the two don't always equate. I was telling my wife today that I remember one of my best friends. It must have been like 15 years ago, coming to me and saying like, "Hey, have you heard of this thing, bitcoins and cryptocurrency? Like, let me set up your computer. We can download like a bunch of coins overnight." And at that time, you could download like 30 coins or something overnight, maybe more. 300. I don't remember. It was a lot. It was more than a single coin per night on your just normal desktop PC. And we were both gamers, so we had decent computers and graphics cards for the time. And nowadays, you can't do that. You need warehouses full of computers to mine bitcoins. But man, I wish I had listened to him. At that time, I was like, this just sounds dumb. You're telling me there's some value to this encrypted a coin or currency. Like it just sounded so ridiculous. And of course, if I had gotten a handful of coins at that time, now they'd be worth 40,000. They didn't even have wallets back then. I think you could risk putting it on a wallet site, which a lot of time it ended up people would just steal all the coins. There was a lot of controversies over that, but you could also print your coin out, and I think my friend had done that. He might have like a box somewhere with like a coin printed out on it, which is interesting as well. But anyways, I don't know the answer to. I'm curious about Bitcoin myself, but if you have the luxury of being able to invest in it, I think it's probably not a bad idea. I'd wait probably for it to go back down because it's cyclical. It sounds like it'll crash and then it'll come back up and then it'll go back down. But it seems like a lot of people are interested. So do your research. That's all I can say. All right. Any other questions, chat? All right. Speaking of finances, I need to refinance my house. So after this stream, that's what I'm going to be doing. All right. So just to wrap up, of course, if anyone has any questions ever, let me know. The live stream is just a nice time because I have dedicated time to put to it. But if you have any questions, let me know. I just posted on Facebook a I'll design it banner. So if you have a project or a design, I know my son, I think, who might be in chat, has a few design projects he'd like somebody to work on. So if I can do it, whether it's a flyer or a card or even just like a critique of something, a website or a product application, I'd be happy to do that over live stream and chat about it. So I think with that, I'm going to end the stream a little bit early, a short one today. But I will, on that note, play us out with this.
Ain't nobody got time for that.